Okay, being 8:15, we'll begin, and I will call roll. Mr. Kaminsky.
Present.
Mr. Kunkel.
Here.
Mr. Reiner.
Here.
Mr. Sager is absent. Mr. Scala.
Present.
Ms. Van Bergen.
Here.
Mr. President, we'll begin the meeting. Okay. Motion for the approval of the minutes.
Move.
Moved by Mr. Scala, second by Mr. Kaminsky. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. Okay, public comments. We have 3 this morning. Mary Donner.
Oh, no, I don't have that. Good morning, I'm Mary Donner. I'm the newly appointed chairman for the RPC.
You don't need that.
Got the microphone.
This microphone will pick you up even as soft-spoken as you are.
Pardon me.
You got that?
And everybody at home. No, we had our first meeting this year on last Thursday. And we kind of brought everybody back up to snuff because it's been a long time since we've had a meeting and we wanted to know where we were, where we were going. And we have 3 new members. Okay. It worked out very well, from what I understand. And one of the reasons that it did is because I had asked Scott Hennings to give us a rundown on the transportation, new transportation plan that you had, how it worked, where it worked, because that was something we hadn't seen, how something actually goes from the beginning through the process and to fruition. And from all the feedback I got, everybody really, really liked Scott's presentation. It was short, it was sweet, it spoke English, they understood what he said, and there were not that many comments, but they know that they can get back to him. He is our ex officio for the transportation portion of the RPC. There are others, and they will be speaking in the months to come, because we're going to have more meetings so that we can get this puppy on the road by December. I just jinxed it, didn't I? Maybe March. Okay, but we'll do that. And I wanted to let you know what a fine job he does all the time, and has. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Okay, Doris Capel.
My mother has trouble hearing. Her hearing aid broke, so if you don't mind, I'll stand next to her and help if you need help.
Okay,
That's fine.
going on, you call up to get rides for pay, and they'll tell you that they don't have any transportation for that day. Then they show up with a bus, and then I get told that if I have to go for a doctor's appointment, there is no ride, and then they can schedule me for a ride to go to a doctor's appointment at 6 o'clock at night. But they don't have a way for me to get back home. And what I come to a conclusion is when they're being trained, your dispatchers are not being trained properly. And I talked to the supervisor a couple times, and I told her, I said, you know what, I call up, your dispatcher tells me there's no rides. Then a bus comes to pick me up, and in the meantime, I had another ride, and I have to go to these doctor's appointments because I have cancer. And then the one time I got a ride home, and I'm going down 47 to the same places 6-7 times in one day, in one ride, and they gotta be training their dispatchers properly. And then you're riding the bus for 2-3 hours in order to get to your destination, and you don't know if you're gonna be there on time. And then you're getting canceled from your doctor's appointment because the bus doesn't get you there. And I think there's a lot of problems with the training. And a couple of times I went and I wanted to talk to the supervisor to address some of these concerns, and they wouldn't even talk to you. So there's a whole mess of problems going with PACE and their operations. And anybody that you talk to that take the PACE bus, they're gonna tell you the same problems I've been having. So something's gotta change with this company. And they ought to take samples with the township bus in McHenry, because they are excellent with their transportation. They get you to appointments on time. The drivers are very courteous. And I can't blame the drivers from PACE, because they're only doing what they're told. So it's one mess with PACE. And if you can straighten that out, it'd be fine. But you can't go 2-3 hours with missing a doctor's appointment. And I have to go to those in Crystal Lake.
Okay, thank you very much, and
So that's my concern.
thank you very much, and I know Scott was taking some notes here, so.
Huh? My time's up?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I'm assuming you were being polite in letting her say. I think it's very important. I'm here, my name's Terry Capel, I'm from McHenry, and I'm here again to talk about transportation for the bus service and our need, long-time need for expanded route bus service in our county. My mother has had much experience with buses in the county since some lug nuts on her car came off about 10 years ago and totaled her car. Many people who are seniors, who are disabled, who are not making a good income but working, or for whatever reason can't afford a car, are in the same circumstance where they're not able to get to where they want to go. It's my hope. I got a little distracted in the last month, as many of us did, for other issues. But it's my hope in the near future to try to solicit experiences of McHenry County residents. It's my hope to organize an event, which is a very difficult thing for people who are dependent on bus service to get to. So I've been trying to work out a location in our town, and I hope in the next couple of months to do that. And I'll send out information to any county board members who would like to attend. In the last month, I've reached out to several people, and one person in particular I talked to who's a staff member at MCC, McHenry County College, mentions that she speaks to many students at MCC who have trouble getting to school. They have similar problems about having to call for a bus, PACE bus, and having to call very early in order to get a PACE bus, and many times they have to wait on hold for a long time. She said they have to call at 5:30 in the morning in order to hope to get a bus. And one comment she said was numerous students have gone to her in tears because they can't get to classes. There is a definite need for public transportation in this county. What is being provided out of only less than 20% of the RTA tax that's supposed to go to bus service is being spent on it. And we're not providing the service that people need in this county. And I'm going to be spending the next however long it takes to advocate for this issue. So thank you for coming.
Okay, seeing no other public comments, I don't think anybody else is. Okay, let's move down to member comments. Would any members like to speak? Okay, seeing none, let's move to the routine consent agenda. Are there any agenda items that anyone would like to pull from the, Mr. Kaminsky?
5.2, 5.5, and 5.6. I have questions on those two bottom ones. That's all with those, why I'm pulling them.
Okay. And then is anybody else? Any other a motion to approve items 1, 3, 4, 7, 8, and 9? Is there a motion?
I'll second.
Ms. Von Berga, Mr. Scala seconds. And any other discussion on those items? If not, we'll proceed to vote. Ms. Von Bergen,
Yes.
Mr. Scala,
Yes.
Mr. Reiner,
Yes.
Mr. Kunkel. Yes. Mr. Kaminsky.
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. Okay, 5.2, is there a motion to approve that?
I'll move.
Mr. Scala moves and Mr. Reiner seconds. Okay. Colin?
My question is with that is, why are we spending that kind of money for this year and next year for, you know, folks? How long are we gonna keep spending money, getting more folks hooked in on providing services for them? If they're in the court system, part of their responsibility to learn is to make sure that they get to where they need to be on their own. You know, I see we're gonna take 40K this year and 60K next year. When does it stop?
Okay, Mr.
So this proposal came from the Public Transportation Advisory Committee. So you all appoint a group of experts that meet regularly to talk about public transit. The courts came to PTAC, to the Public Transportation Group, and proposed this concept of the county funding a transportation service for people that need to get to specialty courts. It's very similar in nature to how we fund senior care volunteer network. For those that don't know, the county DOT provides $70,000 per year to senior care volunteer network to give seniors volunteer rides. So we have volunteers that provide rides to seniors. And we fund them, they provide the service. So that was used as a model for this proposal that's in front of you today, where we would fund the courts and they would work with a nonprofit provider to provide transportation for their clients. Obviously, it's up for discussion if you think this is a useful program to fund. However, I thought it was important that we work through what this program could look like and bring something forward for your consideration at this point. It is important to note it's only a 1.5 year long program, at which time the county board could decide to renew it or to not renew it. So there is a limited funding towards this, and it's not indefinite in nature. So that, if there's questions specifically, I can help answer those, but I think the IGA kind of summarizes what our responsibility is. And really, it is just a funding responsibility. That's kind of the entirety of this department's contributions for this is just the funding.
Mr. Cook?
But we obviously have the ride share, and assuming some or part of these people are able-bodied and can garner rides that way, the regular general public, this just feels a little unbalanced to me, a little unfair to the general public when we are specifically helping one small group. I'm all in favor of the seniors. I understand that. I understand the limited funds that they have to work with. But they're working with the ride share and what limited amount we can give beyond that. I would think these people could do the same because it seems to be a little unbalanced. There's a large, as we know, every time we come here, we hear from the public on these things where the ride share is inadequate, and then we're gonna fund a separate little group that we wanna take special interest in. I struggle with them. I'd be a no vote on this.
And that's great. I want to point out the reason this is being proposed is because the dial-a-ride system is inadequate for these individuals. So
Then can we put these funds towards the dial-a-ride and let's move something a little bit that direction, a little more fair to everyone?
unfortunately, that's been tried and it's not successful. So again, according to specialty courts, the only way to properly serve these individuals trying to get to court is a more individualized service, just like what's being proposed here today. If they were here, I don't know if anybody from specialty, if they were here, what they would say is that this is actually a cost benefit for the county, because recidivism rates being so high actually cost the county more in the long run than providing $100,000 over 2 years to get them to court to prevent that recidivism rate. Again, I'm not a specialty courts person.
Again, and I feel that is way unbalanced to the general society who are working hard, trying to get their life to keeping that all in order, and then we're going to subsidize people who are, for whatever reasons, unable to keep that on an even scale. I just feel it's very unbalanced. So.
Okay. Anyone else with comments? All right, thank you, Scott. If no further comments, we will proceed to a vote. Ms. Von Bergen,
Yes.
Mr. Scala,
Yes.
Mr. Reiner,
Yes.
Mr. Kunkel,
No.
Mr. Kaminsky,
No.
and I'll vote yes. And that item will move forward. Okay, 5.5, Mr. Kaminsky.
I think
Well, I
my,
needed a
Oh,
motion.
motion.
Just a
oh,
second.
sorry.
Sorry about that.
I'll move.
Mr. Scala moves. Ms. Von Bergen seconds. Discuss, well, ask your question and then let's.
I think my question's been answered, but I'm not sure. When I was reading through it, I saw Girl Scouts credits, and I'm like, okay, what is that? And it was explained to me that in order to get this project started and finished, you're going to have to go over here and take some of this land to make up for what you're gonna have to do to fix this. Then after that's done, then this goes back to normal and we're all happy and
To get our
peachy.
To get our permit from Army Corps, we need to have the mitigation credits, and they're available from the Girl Scouts.
Okay, that was, I was kind of, what are we going there for credit? And the way it was explained, okay, I can understand that you're gonna take up this much area to fix this little thing, but you gotta take it from there in order to facilitate this, then once the dust is settled, everything's back to normal. Okay, I'm cool with that.
That was easy enough. All right, let's, any other questions? Okay, proceed to vote. Mr. Kaminsky,
Yes.
Mr. Kunkel,
Yes.
Mr. Reiner,
Yes.
Mr. Scala,
Yes.
Ms. Von Bergen,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes. Do I have a motion for 5.6?
I'll move.
Mr. Scala moves. Ms. Von Bergen seconds. Okay. Carl?
What tools? I see that we're gonna spend about 22K on equipment and stuff to replenish.
It's all for either making signs or putting up signs.
Something we haven't done, or this is the resupply of material? Okay.
Resupply. When we did the original bid, we got no bid on those items. And it was supply and demand at the time, and they told us to come back after the first of the year.
Okay, and I understand that that's been approved by a previous board, now you
Right.
have the lowest bidders, now you have a name to attach to the
Correct.
money that's been allocated, kind of.
Correct.
All right, cool.
I have just a question.
John, go ahead.
Is this a shared service with the tools and such, like if Algonquin Township or any, I know years ago, Miller had his own sign-making equipment, made his own.
We will assist other municipalities.
Is it a normal practice or is it a rarity?
We help other departments, we do quite a bit of it.
Yeah, just wondering if this was something that we could hopefully save money on in the future. I mean, we're all buying the same tools to make the same kind of signs in all the different townships and the county.
Correct.
Wonder if we could get in front of that.
Or is there a look for the future to bring it in all under one house to the municipalities kick in some bucks?
No, we do not have those resources to be a
Okay.
printing shop. And
Right.
it will
I
help out
understand
under,
that, but yeah.
under, Yeah, we would need another full-time person for that and the needs, and then also you would have to budget substantially more materials if you're talking more than just what our needs here are at the DOT.
Well, yeah, that's why I said, having the other municipalities kick in the bucks, here you have the resources to make it, okay, they just flip the bill
Right.
to pay for it.
All right, Mr. Kunkel.
Are you aware whether Algonquin Township still has that ability?
So this was just one of the complaints back before the Gasser days, you know, it's like this guy putting signs and, you know, all this. And I would imagine all the townships probably have the capabilities of possibly doing it, you know, some of the bigger ones, but the smaller ones, you know, just, I'm sure that you guys take care of it. I don't mean to micromanage anything. I was just kind of wondering if this was a shared service. That was it.
Okay. Seeing no further discussion, let's move forward on a vote. Mr. Kunkel,
Yes.
Mr. Reiner,
Yes.
Mr. Saga, or Scala,
Yes?
Ms. Van Bergen,
Yes.
Mr. Kaminsky,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes. Motion moves forward. Okay, down to new business. Monthly favorite, staff recognition.
We don't have any staff recognition. When we created the agenda, it was hoped that we would, but we do have a new maintenance worker that is starting March 10th, and so we'll be introducing him at our next meeting. So
Okay.
that's all we have for that, and acceptable, we can move on to the pavement preservation.
Yes, let's move on.
Okay. Who's starting off, Jeremy, you?
Me, yeah, I'll start it.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. For those that I haven't had an opportunity to meet yet, welcome to the Transportation Committee. My name is Jeremy Stahl. I'm the construction manager here at the DOT. A little bit about myself. I started here 14 years ago as a summer intern. When I graduated college, I worked in the private side for a few years, and then I've been back and moved up through the ranks over the years, and I've been here almost 9 years. And so before we get started, I just wanted to give you guys a little introduction of our team. With me, I have Justin Stevens, who you'll actually get to get some FaceTime with today. He's going to go over our presentation today on our pavement preservation. He's been with us for 3 years. He also has spent some time at CDOT, and he's worked at Intren, so he's got some good background. Pablo is one of our most experienced REs. He's been in the industry for over 30 years and 17 years with the county. He runs our very large projects, usually bridge rehab, bridge reconstruction, intersection improvement projects. And then we have Cage, who's been with us, will be a year this month, and he'll do anything township related using MFT funds, so anything with the private roads or township resurfacing. And other than that, we have 2 positions that are currently vacant, and we're hoping to get those filled soon. But yeah, that makes up the construction section. So Justin and I wanted to give you guys a presentation today with our largest contract coming forward to you guys next month on the March 29th committee meeting, which is our road resurfacing project for the county. We wanted to get those who haven't, had as much experience learning about what we do in pavement preservation and get you guys up to speed on this year's program and more. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Justin here.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I also want to piggyback off of Jeremy, and I kind of want to welcome all the new Transportation Committee members, as well as those committee members who are continuing to serve in the public today. As Jeremy said, my name is Justin Stevens, and I'll be giving a brief overview on our biggest in-house construction program, which is pavement preservation. This is an annual program that's based off of a 12-month cycle, and that's from cradle to grave, from planning to construction, all the way to contract closeout. So with that, there will be 4 main topics that I'll be going over. Number 1, what is pavement preservation? Number 2, pavement condition assessment and how this assists us with evaluating our roadways and selecting our roadways for our program. Number 3, CAMAM Task Force, what that acronym even means and how that helps us with our program. And number 4, a brief overview on touching what locations you can expect for this season's work. So, number one, what is pavement preservation? As simple as it sounds, the major three tenets for pavement preservation are choosing the correct road, the right treatment, at the right time. And there's some pretty construction pictures on there. So, today I'll be going over that individually as well. Let's see. I'll be going that and there we go. I'll be going over pavement preservation as well as our county roadway network. So we have 73 roads total in our county roadway network, which span about 525 lane miles total. So this is our largest annual program, and we are typically able to resurface about 25 lane miles a year, give or take a little bit. And that is about 5% of our total network annually. These treatments I'll be going over mainly are crack sealing and all the way up to full depth reclamation and any which in between. So, before I move forward on pavement preservation, there's a pretty major topic I would like to talk about. It's pretty important. I want to touch on liquid asphalt prices over the years, specifically over the past few decades. So starting in 2006, you can see on this red graph up here, liquid asphalt prices have gone up significantly, all the way up to 110% increase total by 2006 up to today. So this also has increased the tonnage price for asphalt on our contracts quite significantly. And asphalt tonnage prices on our contract make up a bulk of the cost of the contract. So as you guys can imagine, this has introduced some pretty unique challenges to the DOT staff and management staff on appropriately budgeting and funding annually. So how do we do that? I want to highlight pre-2009 in the entire region, everybody has increased quite dramatic increase in construction costs, while budgets have remained fairly steady. So something needed to change in order to keep up with our infrastructure as well as resurface a consistent annual amount. So we introduced RTA sales tax in 2009. That was introduced into our budget, and that has helped quite significantly curb a lot of the increased costs. Fast forward about a decade, in 2019, we saw our first year of Transportation Renewal Fund, or otherwise known as TRF. This has also helped curb many of the contract cost increases as well with construction. This funding increased the gas tax amount, thus increasing the county's monthly MFT allotment by about 60%. This has significantly helped us not only resurface our roads, but do necessary accessory work as well, such as improving ditches and drainage, improving ADA ramps, intersection redesign, paving aggregate shoulders, and so forth. So with that up there, you'll see a couple of green bars up here. That'll represent the budgeted amount for that construction program for our pavement preservation program that year. And just to the right of each green bar is the expenditure amount, how much we actually spent that year. So you'll notice there's a gap between the budget and the expenditure amount. And the gap between those two is primarily due to additional appropriated dollars added to the resolution, and this is to help us cover the contract value flux that happens over the year. So the goal is to spend near as 100% as possible, but in reality we spend 85 to 90%.
Okay, check on that. In 2019, the gas tax went from 19 to 38, double. Our portion of that went up 60%?
70, roughly 70%.
And also remember that it is indexed to inflation now also, which it wasn't in the past.
Is that every July? Is it July? That kicks out?
Does it go start with the state fiscal year?
I think it's calendar year. I think every January 1, I think.
Alright, moving forward, second topic, I would like to talk about our pavement condition assessment. It sounds exactly like it is. It's assessing our conditions of the pavement that we have. This uses, we use CRS to determine road ratings. That's the buzzword that basically means condition rating survey. So this was developed back in 1974, with IDOT also taking it on in 1994 and further developing the data collection methods for the next upcoming decades. The county, us ourselves, we took on CRS for evaluating our roadways in 2009, and ever since we have worked with our consultants consistently on determining the current condition of our roadways. So, quick overview how CRS works exactly. What it essentially is, it's a rating scale of the current condition of your roadway. It's on a 1 to 9 scale, 9 being a completely brand new roadway, and one being not as good, total utter pavement failure. So how they collect this data is they take a digital survey vehicle, drive down the road, they'll take a bunch of pavement images, and they'll measure all the distresses such as cracking, faulting, the fatigue cracks, a longitudinal profile, etc. They'll measure all those distresses along with historical data, and they'll put that into a bunch of calculations, and they'll give you a CRS value, a score of the condition of your roadway. And I'm sure some of you are wondering how the county is doing for our roadway network. So our aggregate CRS value for our roadway network is a 6.51, which is a very good number. So this table up here, it'll show you typical treatment methods you'll see within the CRS value ranges, anywhere from rejuvenating, back seal, and lift overlay, all the way to full line reconstruction. We do take these into account along with the budget that we are allotted as well to determine what roadways we can do and what treatments we can do as well. Next slide, third topic, I would like to talk a little bit about CAM-AM and what CAM-AM is and how we tie that into our pavement preservation program. So CAM-AM essentially stands for Construction and Materials Asset Management. It is a task force. So back in 2018, the Illinois Tollway, the Illinois Department of Transportation, Chicago DOT, the FHWA, and then the surrounding collar counties, so DuPage, Cook, Lake, McHenry, Will. So all of us got together, all these agencies, and they formed a task force that was essentially known as CAM-AM. So CAM-AM is broken up into 4 committees. We have the executive committee, which Jeremy up here and Mr. Joe over there, they're a part of. Then we also have the pavement preservation committee, which myself and Pablo Filacci, our construction engineer too, he's the vice chairman of. And then there are 2 more committees, which are the HMA and the PCC committee. Those go over the innovations and advancements in asphalt and concrete technologies. So what I want to highlight up here is we have a beautiful picture of, some of you may recognize, Algonquin Road. Back in the summer of 2020, we did a thin lift overlay on that road, and I want to keep the idea of the thin lift overlay in your mind for the next slide and why that was pretty important to us at the time. So here's CAM-AM's mission and why it's actually pretty neat. So CAM-AM's mission is essentially the group as a whole will share information on the current best practices and innovations they have in use across the region. They collaborate together and evaluate any improvements or any innovations that are presented to them that are currently in our market. And by working together, everybody pulls their resources, their knowledge, and everything available to them to implement solutions to move towards improving our infrastructure, its quality, and its service life as well. So to revisit the photo of Algonquin Road, why that was pretty significant is through this task force, we were actually able to be the first county to get IDOT approval of using motor fuel tax funding for a thin lift. So a thin lift overlay is considered an experimental feature, so that was a pretty big deal because it allowed us to resurface all the roadways we needed to that year while being within our budget, because motor fuel tax funding is a very significant portion of our budget for resurfacing our roads. And finally, I would like to give a brief overview on what roads you can expect to be resurfaced this year in our pavement preservation program. So this year we have 5 total locations. So on this map right here, it'll show you the southeastern quadrant of the county. There are 2 roads right there in Lake in the Hills. We have Hyatt Road and we have Lakewood Road that are planned to be as part of our program this year. So Hyatt Road, it's about 5 lane miles of construction work that'll run all the way from Raycow Road down to Algonquin Road. And then we have Lakewood Road all the way on Ackman going down to Algonquin Road. And then out over in the southwestern quadrant of the county, we got 3 more locations located in Union, Illinois. Those will be North Union, South Union, and West Union roads. North Union Road, that'll be about 2 lane miles of work all the way from 176 down south to Opak Road. West Union Road will be from Marengo from US 20 all the way east to Water Tower Street. That's about 3 lane miles of work. And then finally, we have South Union Road from West Union all the way down to the Marengo Road roundabout. That's about 4 lane miles worth of construction. But with that, that's my very brief presentation. I would like to thank you all for presenting, or having me present in front of you, and I'll open the floor to any questions you have for myself or Jeremy. But if you think of anything after, please feel free to reach out to the DOT. Jeremy and I will be happy to answer any questions related to construction of the DOT. And it is our intention to also provide you brief construction updates as we go forward as the construction season moves on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions from anyone? Thank you, I enjoyed that presentation.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure.
Well done, gentlemen.
Yeah, best presentation this morning.
Oh, I tried. Good news.
Okay, 6.3, the Metra strategic plan approved.
Yeah, this was just information in your packet. I wanted to provide the link to the final plan that both the Metra board and the RTA board adopted their plans since we met last. So this was just more of an informational item. It's in your packet if you want to read it.
Right. Okay.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Sure.
So so reading 6.4, which was the RTA one, and also looking at what Mr. Dillard had to say 3 weeks ago, 3-4 weeks, whatever time it was, a little while ago. I have a huge concern that there doesn't seem to be an answer for the funding gap that is everyone acknowledges and knows is coming. And I don't know if the strategy is to simply wait until that is on us and then it puts pressure on the General Assembly to actually take action, which kind of seems like what we always do in Illinois. We wait until there's a crisis and then people react to it. But it just seems very disheartening to see that no one's trying to put a plan in place now.
That's not quite true.
Not quite true?
No. Scott will tell you.
Yes. The RTA.
If you're done talking, but
Yeah.
I don't want to say.
Oh, no, I would rather be corrected and have happy news, so tell me.
I don't say it's happy yet, but the General Assembly did charge somebody with putting a plan together, and that group was CMAP. They last session, they had a bill that said this CMAP must put together a plan, as a kind of third-party group to put together a plan. So, and RTA has their own plan. Scott, you're better at this.
So the RTA's plan laid the groundwork for the part that it's called PART. So it's Plan for Action for Regional Transit PART report that CMAP has been tasked by the General Assembly to develop and approve by the end of this year. So by the end of 2023, there will be a plan adopted by the CMAP Policy Committee and Appeal Policy Committee, which Chairman Bueller sits on.
But he does most of it.
I mean, I'm an alternate rep, so I tend to sit for the chairman when he's not able to.
They're meeting tomorrow.
They're meeting actually next week, so it's next Thursday.
Next Thursday.
And
Yeah, it's at the same time as Cal, that's right.
that's right, yeah, so hence the reason the chairman's not going. And this PART plan really is going to build on the work the RTA already did as part of their plan. The RTA, if you read it, it lays out several options as far as revenue increase potential, right? But they don't recommend one or the other or a combination of those. They just say, here's how much we could generate by pulling this lever or that lever. This PART plan, I think, is going to put the meat on the bone. It's going to actually say, these are what we recommend as a region, and these are the actions the General Assembly needs to take in order to make that a reality. So, and that, again, we have about 9 months to get that developed and approved. So there is action, it just maybe you haven't seen it yet, but you will in the next couple of months. You'll start to see some drafts coming from CMAP, from this PART plan.
Okay, so that, I appreciate the fact that they're putting a plan together, but again, it's gonna come back to the General Assembly modifying how things have been currently operating in order to get something accomplished. Which, again, is waiting to the last minute to have that happen in the sense that we all know how things go in Springfield. So that to me, that doesn't provide much comfort, I guess.
Well, don't forget the fiscal cliff, this transit cliff that's coming is actually not until 2026. That's really when the bulk of the problems start to occur. So we have 2 years really to kind of put these steps in action to prevent the collapse of our transit system in 2026. I think we'd all like to see that done before 2026 to make sure we're not in the situation you just outlined, but we have a couple years, and that's why these plans are being done now. And there's an urgency to get that done, so that we can get ahead of this instead of reacting.
Some of the solutions, though, are not immediate. So, again, not that they're gonna be chosen,
Yeah.
but, the cash flow and revenue stream won't match up if those things aren't, if action isn't taken sooner rather than later.
Probably next year. It's really the timeline, I think. The region is looking at these things need to be put in place next year, so to give it time to actually fix the problem in 2026. So that's the urgency to get this plan done by the end of this year, is to actually implement it next year. And again, none of it is easy. I mean, we're talking about
Series of tough choices.
very tough choices. It's what's the worst bad choice, or what's the best bad choice, I guess, that we could.
Or combination.
Yeah.
You know, like, we've talked a lot about electric vehicles. Clearly, that's going to be in the mix in some manner.
As will service cuts. I mean, the RTA doesn't say it in their plan. I think they refuse to acknowledge or even talk about the idea of service cuts, but you'll see some proposals come through that cut service. Eliminating Metra stations, getting rid of pace bus routes.
Maybe that makes sense in some instances when we see ridership. You know, they're hoping to get back to 60%.
And keep in mind, this is all an operations issue. Capital, the RTA is flush with capital money for building new stations, building new, procuring train cars. They've got all the money in the world to do that. They just don't have money to operate it. Because the way we fund operations is through the RTA sales tax and through ridership fare. And the ridership fare is what's collapsed during the pandemic and hasn't recovered.
But that formula can be altered.
Through federal action. And that's the feds put the restriction on what capital money can be used on and what they can't be used on.
Well, no, but even the percent of revenue,
Fare box recovery,
correct,
yes.
so that,
That's gonna take legislative action by the General Assembly.
right.
Yeah.
But see, to me, that's a simple no-brainer that they can do now. They don't need a report to do that. I
Well,
mean,
and the RTA's been asking for that for a decade now.
Right.
It's just the urgency is now today to actually make it happen.
but that's my,
Yeah.
okay.
No, I
I
hear you.
made my point, all right.
Well, just a real quick question, I mean, is the concern of, how McHenry County will be affected, or the 6 collar counties, or the state? I mean, what is your major concern? Will we lose a lot of our, funding for specifically McHenry County,
I
or?
think it's possible, and I'll point out, it's a transit system, and that system word is important, right?
Right,
We're not,
yeah.
McHenry County doesn't have its own system. We're part of the larger Chicago regional system. And cuts to CTA, cuts to Metra, even if it's not in McHenry County, it will impact our residents, because their connections then to job opportunities is limited. But yes, I mean, I do think we are gonna be faced with a list of cuts to services that are currently operating today in McHenry County. What that is, I don't wanna get ahead of the RTA and CMAP, I don't wanna speculate, but none of it's gonna be pleasant, and they're gonna have real ramifications to municipalities and residents living out here. And I'll point out too, in 2007, with the RTA sales tax increase that occurred back in 2007, that was a last minute thing, to your point, and it took the urgency of we need to get something done to actually get that passed by the General Assembly. And you're right, that's where we often end up. It's not the ideal situation, but that's exactly how it worked 15 years ago when we increased the RTA sales tax.
Just a follow-up. Could you explain to me the 2026 cliff? I don't quite understand.
Yeah, so Cliff Notes version, we fund the system operations through two major buckets. There's the RTA sales tax, which has actually been growing since the pandemic. We're seeing 3 to 5% growth every year with the RTA sales tax. So that's been strong.
That's a half cent, and everybody's spending $1 in the 6 county region.
And so that's been healthy, but then the other half, and as mandated by the state legislature, half of the operations needs to be funded by fare revenue. So anytime you take a train ride or a bus ride, you're paying fare. Half of that cost of that ride needs to be paid for by the rider, on average, right? So CTA, the riders might pay 60 or 70% of that ride. On PACE, it's more like 15% of that ride. But on average, the system itself needs to average 50% fare box recovery. And if you don't meet that, you need to either cut service or raise fares to meet that 50% threshold. And with ridership being now still very depressed, it's different depending on the system. Pace has recovered faster than Metra and CTA have, but they're still down significantly in ridership. What you're talking about, we used to get, hypothetically, $500 million in revenue. Now you're getting $200 million in fare box revenue. So you need to somehow come up with that $300 million difference, right? And you can do it two ways. You can raise fares, cut service, but both of those things are just going to exacerbate the problem. You've got this cycle that's then going to, less people are going to ride. And so you got to do it again, and the cuts are even more severe next time. Or you increase the public subsidy. The RTA sales tax is one option, one lever we could pull. We could increase that and get rid of the requirement of the 50%. Maybe the state says the riders only need to pay 40% or 30% of the cost of the service. And the public, the taxpayers, will pay 70%. That's an easy tweak.
John asked about the cliff in 26.
Oh yeah, right. So
it's federal money propping it up right now.
Correct.
That's going to go away.
The reason we would have cut service already if not for the federal relief dollars that have flowed into the region to every again, we're not unique. Chicago is just the same as every other major transit agency in the country, across the world actually, and we're all dealing with this fiscal cliff that's going to be here in 2 or 3 years.
Kevin Boyce is going to do it.
Question for you. Why not do a little buzz cut and let the services be down? Because we're constantly being told, hey, we've got less people going downtown to work because they're working at home. We've got different people working from home. So if they're not going downtown, they have other areas that they can do the same job, okay. If there isn't a need for the service, cut it.
I'm not going to get into that. It's not my
I mean,
but
if you don't have the population that's utilizing it, why keep paying for
I
it?
can certainly see that as part of the solution, instead of, 10 daily routes to and back, make it 6.
One thing, if you
That'll probably be one of the outlets.
It's all interrelated, it's all interrelated. One can argue the value of homes out here are somehow elevated by better Metro service and UCT, so it's all interrelated.
If you read the Metra strategic plan, they make a very big departure from how they've done things since their creation. Their plan suggests getting away from a commuter-based service, getting people down to the Chicago Central Business District during peak hours, right? That's how their whole system is designed, to get people to the loop at certain hours of the day. They're getting away from that. Their strategic plan outlines what they're calling regional rail systems. So instead of getting downtown to get to work, they're focused on how do we increase service on the weekends to get people to sporting events. How do we get people to ride from Harvard to Crystal Lake for jobs? Or because you provide more trains, localized trains, instead of more express trains downtown at certain hours of the day. It all costs the same, it's just a redistribution of how the system is being.
Maybe it's more trains Tuesday through Thursday when there's more riders and fewer on Mondays and Fridays.
One thing Metra always points out, the weekend ridership on Metra is almost recovered completely. So people are out riding on weekends, the same as they did before the pandemic. It's just, to your point, it's the peak CBD hours because people are working from home more. That's what's depressed though.
But like on Metra, going to that concept, they always talked about putting in the star, and they never have because the capital side of it. But if they have the capital, if that's their, and I read that, but if that's their shift, then they need to be able to do that, because that's, I mean, the fact of the matter is all their rail lines go from suburbs to Chicago. There is nothing that goes north-south, and that's yeah, it does. I mean, so that concept is great, but then you're gonna have to make an investment in the future to make that work.
Yeah.
All right, good conversation. Okay.
I suspect it's not the last time we're going to be talking about this, but I appreciate the opportunity to open it up.
All right, moving on to old business.
Under staff report, we have two things, do the 2050, you wanna do that, and then also the Metra tour?
Yeah, since we're talking about Metra already, I'll mention that I emailed out this group the fact that Ken Kaler, director for Metra, invited us down to see one of their operations facilities. He threw out some dates. I did an informal poll, and April 12th seems to work the best for the most amount of people. So if you're still interested, if you can get into your calendars, April 12th, it's an all-day event. We take the Metra out of Crystal Lake, head downtown or head towards the city to get to do the tour. They provide lunch, transportation when we're downtown, and then we come back out to Crystal Lake at the end of the day. So it's probably a good 8-hour day, but Ken highly recommends it if you haven't done it already. Let me know if you're interested. I'll add you to the RSVP.
Have you determined the date yet?
Yeah, April 12th.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a Wednesday.
It is.
Wednesday.
A couple of us went on that last one, and I tell you what, it's worth going on.
Yes.
It really is. It's amazing to see what they do with the limited dollars they have.
What time do you think?
I think Ken told me 8 a.m. at Crystal Lake Metro.
It might even be earlier, you might be
Yeah.
on the 7-something train to get there, yeah.
I'll put 7 in.
It's a very good program.
Does that go down to the repair facility?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, that's
pretty
where he
much
was
what we're
talking,
gonna
where they
end up with.
rehab them,
Up
tear
there.
them down to bare bones, bring them back up, you're gonna be.
You'll get an up-front close tour of it, that they'll put you right next to it and show what they do and what they can do. It is impressive.
It is.
Yeah, he had the numbers like it's like 2 million for brand new and you're only like 700,000 to do the
Right.
same job, rebuild it.
Yeah, so they'll take you to multiple yards via bus from when you go there, and it's a great tour.
And it'll be a small group. It'll just be transportation committee members and maybe some DOT staff. So we're trying to keep it small, but let me know if you're interested. I'll add you to the list.
You definitely.
And you'll have the top brass from Metra there for you also.
And then 2050 transportation plan, I handed out at your table, just an update handout to kind of show you what we've been doing over the last month, what's coming up next. You know, we're getting into the drafting phase of the plan where we're taking everything we heard and actually putting it on paper. And we're eyeing up like public, more additional stakeholder workshops to kind of bounce these draft plan ideas, you know, against some of the experts in the field and get their thoughts. And then eventually we're gonna hold another public meeting. We're looking at holding that at MCC sometime, I think in April is what we're thinking at this point. So yeah, we're getting down to the point where you're gonna start to see more finished products come before this committee for your review and approval. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to me after the fact and I can bring you up to speed.
Okay.
That is it, sir.
Okay, next item, 8.1, discussion and selection of a transportation committee member to sit on the Senior Service Grant Commission. And I know this is a little different. This is a new version of the Senior Grant Commission. And I know Tracy, you had that, don't you?
Yes.
Okay. And essentially what we want to do is appoint someone from the Transportation Committee to serve on that. So it's not all the same members of one staff or one committee. It splits it up. So Transportation, we had a couple of members who showed interest in that. Mr. Kaminsky and Mr. Kunkel. And I think we would like to put forward, if it's agreeable to everyone, put forward Mr. Kunkel as with Mr. Kaminsky as the alternate. Both would like to do that. And if that's okay with everybody. Do we need to vote on that?
I just need consensus in the record, that's fine.
Right,
We
okay.
will prepare an appointment resolution.
Okay. So if no one objects to that, we would appoint Mr. Kunkel. And Mr. Kaminsky will be the alternate if he can't make it.
I have no problem with them.
Okay. John, you okay with that?
I'm totally fine with that.
Okay, and I know Tracy's okay with that.
I'm more than okay with it. It's, you know, transportation is one of the top issues for seniors.
really is.
So naturally, we kind of wanted to get somebody from transportation who maybe has a little bit more insight I know you usually do a presentation, before the group, but it's still nice to have someone there, so thank you.
Well, and with the new bylaws, we will, the DOT will also have a seat on the commission. And so that technical expertise will be there to support you, Tracy.
The county engineer will assign somebody.
Yes, right.
Well, I'm not
Had not
chairing
known.
senior service, I'm
Right.
public health chair, so.
Right.
Right, that's one of the public health and community service, transportation, and finance committees will also have a member on the committee, or on the commission, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Okay.
past that. Now, there is a need for executive session for minute meetings. Is there any?
No, we're not, we don't have any minutes, we weren't ready for that, but we do have the need for land acquisition and pending litigation.
All right then.
I'll make a motion to go into closed session for those two items.
Okay, Mr. Scala moves, Mr. Kunkel seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we will
Aye.
All right, we're out of executive session.
I'll make a motion to go into open session.
Second
So
that.
moved and seconded by Mr. Kaminsky. We'll have to change over our microphones, right? Okay. You're all ready? Okay. All right. Being no further business, do I have a motion for adjournment?
I'll move.
I'll second.
All those in favor?